So now let's talk about the product paths of what you can use to get a customer to your flagship products. The first, well, all the paths, let's just break them down. Direct to flagship, free to flagship, low mid-ticket to flagship, webinar to flagship, launch to flagship, and trial to flagship. Let me show you what each one of these look like. So direct to flagship is basically like this. Customer goes straight forward to your flagship offer. You say, hey, you over there, buy my flagship product. It is extremely rare to see this because usually it takes more finesse to make a flagship product purchase occur. Now, sometimes it happens because if your flagship product is one that's going to sell 1 million units at $10 a piece, yeah, you can do that. But it's very rare to have a flagship product that accomplishes that. It's very challenging, right? Especially for us people here that don't have multi-million dollar budgets with which we can work with to get our product off the ground. If you are going to do something like this in general, you're going to need what I refer to as evergreen scarcity. So this is some sort of technological voodoo that you would set up so that way each and every customer, a web page is personalized to them, so that customer has to act to purchase or the offer expires. So the offer is evergreen in the sense that anybody and everybody can get to it no matter what time of day or night or year or whatever, right? But as soon as they get to it once and it reveals itself to that individual person, it automatically becomes scarce to that individual themselves. That's the type of stuff you'll have to do if you get to most price points that flagship products lend themselves to. And even if you're making this work in the first few months or even in the first year, where you can get them direct to your offer as a flagship, it's hard to maintain this because other people will copy you because they want the path of least resistance. So if you ever start out direct, if it makes sense, yes, you can do direct, but understand direct should be temporary, and then you should consider building upon that. So here's the other model here. Now, the second easiest model is this one. You go free offer and then directly to your flagship product. And the benefit of this is you're using information to prove and sell information. So you say, here's something for free that's interesting to you. And if that's beneficial to you, here's something for paid, which is going to be a lot better. Usually evergreen scarcity is used here as well. The extra benefit here is by putting the free offer in front of your thing, it makes the evergreen scarcity more powerful and more believable. Customers actually will think it will happen to them, which obviously, of course, it always should. Now, this is going to give you a longer position that you can hold, but people can very easily copy this one as well, this type of model. So maybe this one will last a little, half or twice as long as just straight to your flagship product. And maybe makes sense to start there first because it's more likely to work right out of the gate or with just a bare minimum refinement. But again, not a thing you're going to probably hold for a very long period of time. This is the first model that is very highly likely to work and have staying power. A lower mid-ticket product to your flagship product. So customers' first interaction with you is to spend a little bit of money with a front-end product. And then on the back of that front-end product, that's when your flagship product is presented to them. This makes the flagship product inherently scarce because the only way they get to your flagship product is by first buying something before that. It does not mean that we're talking about direct upsells and one-time offers and one-click anything. It can simply be 7 days, 12 days, 15 days after your front-end product is purchased, or it could be 15 seconds. It's just by putting something in front of your flagship, you make it inherently scarce, and you can better control their mindset and their experience and relationship with you before you go for the kill and offer that product that is the flagship product. What you need to understand is everything pre-frames future interactions. So if you do something that completely exceeds their expectation on the front end with that front end product that totally thrills them, they say, well, I haven't had an experience like this for years, anything you present to them after that is going to be incredibly more powerful in terms of the persuasive ability of that thing. So this is why it might make the most sense to make that thing your flagship product, right? And it also has the ability to be personalized scarcity. You can say, hey, because you, customer's name, because you have it now that they bought from you, right? Because you, Johnny boy, have bought product X, Y, and Z. And how do you know that's true? Because they did buy it, right? Therefore, I'm authorized to give you this discount, but only for a limited time. You can specify down to the personal level the sales pitch for the flagship product. And heck, you can get crazy. You can stick your free in front of the front-end product. So customer goes to the free then brings them to the front-end product. The front-end product's primary purpose, more so than anything, you might make profit from it, you probably will. Who cares? The primary function of the front-end product is to get them in the conducive state of mind to most likely purchase the flagship product from you. Now you say, Jason, you have low/mid ticket here. How do I know when to go with low or when to go with mid? It's a great question. First thing is sometimes it's market dictated. Certain markets have a propensity to only spend certain dollar amounts no matter how good the product is or no matter how much the problem is. So sometimes that is $199 and sometimes that's $29. So one of those cases is low ticket, one of those cases is mid ticket. There's a lot of markets that simply there's actual real world restrictions. They just don't pay past a certain price point no matter what you do. Don't try to fight it, just accept it, because the primary function of a lower mid ticket product that leads into a flagship product is not to make as much revenue as possible, it's to get as many customers in the right mindset to buy the flagship product. Secondly, level of comfort. I don't want you doing something that makes you so uncomfortable that even if you succeed at it, you always have regret, right? So a lot of people don't like to sell front-end products for a lot of money. They just can't get comfortable with it. Now, eventually they do over time realize that it's not like some evil commitment of malfeasance to sell products at certain price points, but at least up front, if it just gets them moving, gets them in action, acquires customers, and then over time they decide to raise their prices and go from low to mid, awesome, great, fantastic. Some of this is timing and context. Sometimes it just makes sense to you. You have a really good reason why this product is discounted or this product is at a higher price point than the competition, and the timing works really good for you. Like when I started in this business, nobody was selling $7 products or $4 products or $9 products. So I did it because nobody else was doing it. Now that everybody else is doing it, I don't. Very few people now sell at the $199 the types of products that we sell for $199 or $499. And I love it because I'm completely different than everybody else. So that's my specific reason why, due to timing and context, that I would go mid when people would go low. But I would just as easily go low if they go mid. Okay? Another model here is the launch to the flagship. So this looks like this. You send customer to the pre-launch materials, and then that culminates and builds up over a period of time to then take them to your flagship product. The downside to this is it can usually only be done once or twice a year. Now, it's true you can automate launches, but I very rarely have ever seen... it's so rare I see an automated launch actually work to a level that justifies the automation. Because if they didn't automate it, they can make 100 times much. And yes, it's true they didn't work as hard, but they didn't make 100 times as much. So this is such a Herculean effort to do a launch correctly for your flagship product that you can only do it 1 or 2 times a year, but the good news is that can make you a multimillionaire very easily. And that's how powerful it is. It also, you will lose credibility if you build up such excitement, but do that every month for the same product. It don't make sense, right? It requires multiple free content pieces, which some people think is a negative. I think it's a positive. Some people say, well, that's a lot of work, Jason. I say, no. It's a lot less work because if you the more you can rely on content to create a conversion, the less you have to rely on sales ability. And most people suck at sales ability. Ideally, you want both. But if I had to choose between the two, I'd rather have good content structured correctly that leads to the flagship product and just focus on giving really good information than on figuring out some massive sales technique. Okay? I like it because it can be combined with events. Only finally in 2016 or whatever year we're in these days, it seems that people are just catching on that it doesn't have to be pre-launch content that's video-based only. It can be dynamic. It can be webinars, web events. There's a lot of different ways to do this where they all build up and culminate into the presentation. This is a long orchestrated pre-launch with the exception of, instead of asking them money up front for information, it's a lot of information built out in specific doses that then lead up to the product itself. It is the strongest form of scarcity because it is a market-based scarcity. It comes on the market for a certain period of time, then it goes off. And anybody or everybody misses out after that certain period of time. Now, there are more resources required, but it will make you a lot more money. Another option here is trial to flagship. So this is where you get their credit card information. Any customer, even if they spend 1 penny with you, is worth so much more than a customer who never spends a single cent with you. So sometimes the trick is if we can just get them to open up their wallets once, we are so much more likely to get them to buy anything after that. And instead of it being anything, it should be your flagship product. So I like to think of this as the puppy dog close. You know, kid takes the puppy home for free just to try it out to see if he likes it. There's no way you're going to give that puppy back. No freaking way. So the sales guy who sells the puppy doesn't have to get them to pay for it. He says, just take it home for a day. Yeah, that puppy's done. Sold. So can you give a situation, as your flagship product lends itself to a situation where a trial might make sense? So where it will sell itself, so to speak, right? It does lower the commitment threshold. You're not asking them to dive headfirst in the deep end. You're asking them to dip a toe in the shallow end. There are situations where consumption can lead to higher rates of adoption. So if they just consume it, use it, and get used to it and comfortable with it, if they then see something or feel something as a result of it, then they're going to be more likely to want to pay for it. Not always, by the way. You just have to check it. Does that make sense that consumption of my offer can help lead to higher rates of adoption? Sometimes it just doesn't do anything. Sometimes it hurts, actually. The trial doesn't have to be information, by the way. It could be software. It could be something else. And it doesn't even have to be something you care. It could be something completely independent of your product, but it gets the customer used to giving you money. It gets them on the inner circle. It can help pre-frame them, and you don't even care if they keep the trial to that thing that they signed up for. Just now that you have their record and permission to contact them and present your flagship product to them. My personal favorite is webinar to flagship. And here's why. Your free content is part of your pitch. So instead of breaking out the content over 4 different segments of 4 videos, we just do it all at once in the live event of the webinar, and then at the end of the event we pitch. We condense the sales cycle down to one single interaction, but the interaction has a lot of the benefits of education and information up front. It's the most easily dovetailed. So here's what I mean by that is we can take a webinar and dovetail it to any type of pitch at the end of the day for any type of offer that we're selling. So if I change my flagship product or add something to it, I can easily dovetail my webinar pitch to match it. If I want to change something that's going on and talk to the market directly, that's happening that day, a webinar is easy to do that because I can do that on the fly, whereas a product launch or some of these other models are a little bit more static. They're harder to update. So it has the best agility to persuasion ratio. There's other things that are easier to adjust, but they're not as effective in selling people, especially at higher price points. There's other things that are a lot harder to adjust that are maybe more persuasive, but they come at other expenses such as time, effort, energy, and so on. I will tell you, though, the webinar is the most challenging thing. I think it's worth doing, and eventually I recommend everybody learn how to do at least webinars that are purely educational based because they can make a basis of your flagship product up. They can be incredibly powerful from that regard. So the webinar is the hardest, but it's usually the most lucrative. And of course, you can combine elements of all of these potential product paths of how to take the customer from where they are to introducing them to your flagship product.